It's 2:47 in the morning when the 911 call comes through. The operator's fingers freeze over her keyboard as a woman's voice tears through the line, raw and primal. She's screaming words that don't make sense at first. Something about her hands. Something about her feet. And then, through the static and the sobbing, 4 words that will haunt everyone who hears this recording. He ate my fingers. The police arrive at a modest 2-story house in a quiet Portland suburb 12 minutes later. The neighbors are gathering on their lawns in bathrobes, confused, frightened. This is the kind of street where people know each other's names. Where kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on. Where nothing bad is supposed to happen. The officers break down the door. What they find inside will require 3 of them to seek immediate psychological counseling. Blood. So much blood. And a woman, barely conscious, her hands wrapped in dish towels that are completely soaked through. When they peel back those towels, 2 of her fingers are missing. Not broken. Not injured. Gone. Severed with surgical precision. And when the paramedics cut away her blood-soaked socks, they discover 3 of her toes have suffered the same fate. But here's what makes this case truly disturbing. Here's what kept Detective Sarah Chin awake for the next 800 nights. Just 72 hours before this nightmare, that same woman was captured on security footage at a downtown bar. She's laughing. She's dancing. She's looking into the eyes of a man who most women would describe as perfect. Handsome. Charming. Safe. She has no idea that in exactly 3 days, this man will be carving pieces off her body while she screams for help that won't come in time. So how does this happen? How does a man go from being someone's dream date to their worst nightmare in just 10 minutes? How does someone so loved become so monstrous so quickly? And most terrifying of all, how many other women never got the chance to make that 911 call? This is the story of Marcus Galton, the serial killer who was loved by women, right up until the moment he started eating them. If you asked anyone who knew Marcus Galton to describe him, you'd hear the same words over and over. Thoughtful. Intelligent. Kind. The kind of man who opens doors and remembers your coffee order. At 34 years old, Marcus seemed to have his life together in ways that most men his age could only aspire to. He was a senior software engineer at a respected tech firm in Portland, pulling in a comfortable 6-figure salary. But money wasn't what made Marcus attractive. It was everything else. Standing at 6'2" with an athletic build that suggested regular gym visits without vanity, Marcus had the kind of presence that turned heads when he walked into a room. But it wasn't just the physical. He had these warm brown eyes that seemed to really see you when he looked at you. A smile that felt genuine because it was slow to arrive, like he was really thinking about what you just said before responding. Women later described feeling like they were the only person in the world when Marcus focused his attention on them. His background seemed almost too wholesome to be real. He grew up in a middle-class family in Eugene, Oregon. His mother was a librarian. His father taught high school history. Marcus was a talented pianist who'd seriously considered Juilliard before choosing the more practical path of computer science. But he never gave up music entirely. His apartment had a beautiful upright piano that he played most evenings, usually Chopin or Debussy, the complex pieces that require both technical skill and emotional depth. On weekends, Marcus volunteered at a local animal shelter. The staff there loved him. He'd spend hours with the dogs that nobody wanted, the older ones, the ones with behavioral issues. He had this patience with them, this gentle persistence that eventually won them over. One of the shelter workers later said, Marcus could calm the most aggressive dog. He just had this way of making them trust him. It was like magic. His dating profile was a masterclass in appearing authentic without trying too hard. The bio was brief but thoughtful. Looking for someone who appreciates quiet Sunday mornings and loud Friday nights. I believe the best conversations happen after midnight and the best relationships are built on honesty and terrible puns. Myers-Briggs says I'm an INFJ, but I think astrology is more fun, even if I don't believe in it. Libra if you're curious. The photos showed him hiking with a rescue dog named Chester, reading in a coffee shop, playing piano at what looked like a friend's wedding. There were no shirtless gym selfies. No pictures with expensive cars or stacks of money. Nothing that screamed insecurity or compensation. He looked like someone's dependable older brother. Safe. Trustworthy. Real. His co-workers at the software firm painted the same picture. Marcus? He's literally the nicest guy here, his team lead would later tell police. He always remembers everyone's birthday. Brings in homemade cookies. Asks about your kids by name. When my father died, Marcus organized a meal train for my family without me even knowing. That's just who he is. Another coworker added, in 5 years of working with him, I never once heard him say a negative word about anyone. Not once. He's just genuinely good. His apartment reflected this same carefully curated normalcy. It was clean but lived in. Tasteful art on the walls, nothing too expensive or pretentious. A bookshelf full of classic literature, the kind of books people buy to look smart but Marcus had actually read. You could tell because they were worn, dog-eared, annotated in the margins. His kitchen was well stocked with quality cookware. He liked to cook, he'd tell his dates. Found it relaxing after a long day of staring at code. His specialty was homemade pasta. Everything from scratch. For the past 2 years Marcus had been single. When women asked why someone like him was on dating apps, he had a practiced answer that hit all the right notes. I was engaged, he'd say with just the right amount of vulnerability in his voice. It ended pretty badly about 2 years ago. Took me a while to be ready to put myself out there again. But I think I am now. I think I'm ready to find something real. He never offered more details unless pressed, and something about his reluctance made it seem like the wound was still tender. Made him seem sensitive. Made him seem safe. The women who matched with Marcus over those 2 years would later describe remarkably similar first dates. He always suggested meeting somewhere public, always offered to come to their neighborhood so they'd be comfortable. Coffee shops or wine bars, never anywhere too loud to have a real conversation. He asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to the answers. He didn't dominate the conversation or make everything about himself. He laughed easily but not too much. He was confident but not cocky. He was interested but not desperate. By all accounts, Marcus Dalton was exactly the kind of man that smart, successful women were looking for. The kind of man you'd be proud to introduce to your parents. The kind of man you could see a future with. And that's exactly what made him so dangerous. Detective Sarah Chin had been with the Portland Police Bureau for 15 years when Marcus Dalton first appeared on her radar. At 42, Chin was one of the most respected investigators in the missing persons unit. She'd solved cases that everyone else had given up on. She had instincts that couldn't be taught, an ability to see patterns that others missed. And from the very first moment she heard Marcus Dalton's name, something in her gut twisted. It was March of 2019 when Jessica Morrison vanished. 28 years old, a graphic designer for a boutique advertising agency, Jessica was the kind of person people noticed. Vibrant red hair, infectious laugh, always the one organizing happy hours and group brunches. She had a tight circle of friends who talked to her multiple times a day. Which is why when Jessica went silent mid-text conversation on a Thursday night, her best friend knew immediately that something was wrong. The last message Jessica sent was at 11:47 p.m. He's honestly perfect. Like, suspiciously perfect. But I think this might actually be something real. 3 dots appeared, showing she was typing another message. Then nothing. The dots disappeared. Jessica Morrison was never heard from again. Her friend tried calling. Straight to voicemail. She tried texting. No response. By Friday morning she was calling hospitals. By Friday afternoon she was calling the police. By Friday evening, Detective Sarah Chen was standing in Jessica Morrison's apartment, going through her laptop, trying to piece together the last 24 hours of a woman's life. The dating app messages told the story. Jessica had matched with someone named Marcus Dalton 3 weeks earlier. Their conversation was exactly what you'd want to see. Thoughtful, funny, genuine. They'd gone on 3 dates before Thursday night. Coffee, then dinner, then a walk through the Japanese garden. Each date had apparently gone well. Jessica had texted her friends after each one with increasingly enthusiastic reviews. He's so easy to talk to. Finally, a grown-up who has his life together. I think I actually really like this guy. Thursday night was their 4th date. Marcus had invited Jessica to his apartment for dinner. Homemade pasta, he promised. She told her friends she was nervous about going to his place but excited too. 4th date feels like the right time, right? I trust him. He's been such a gentleman. Detective Chin pulled Marcus Dalton's address from the messages. A nice apartment in the Pearl District, trendy but not obnoxiously expensive. She and her partner arrived at 8 p.m. on Friday night. Marcus answered the door in jeans and a button-down shirt, looking genuinely confused about why police were at his door. His reaction, Chin would later note in her report, was pitch perfect. Concern flooding his face when they mentioned Jessica's name. What? No. What happened? Is she okay? He invited them in immediately, no hesitation. Offered them coffee. Sat down on his couch with his hands clasped, leaning forward like he was desperate to help. Marcus's story was simple and seemingly honest. Yes, Jessica had come over Thursday night around 7. They'd had wine while he cooked. The pasta had turned out great. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. Music, travel, childhood memories, dreams for the future. She'd seemed happy, relaxed. Around midnight, she'd said she should get going. She had an early morning meeting. He'd walked her to the door, kissed her goodnight. It was a good kiss, he said, blushing slightly. The kind that promised more dates to come. He'd watched her get into her car. Watched her drive away. That was the last time he saw her. Did she seem upset about anything? Chen asked. Distracted? Worried? Marcus shook his head. Not at all. She was laughing when she left. We were making plans for the weekend. She wanted to take me to this farmer's market she loves. His voice cracked slightly. God, I hope she's okay. This isn't like her, is it? Her friends must be worried sick. They asked to look around his apartment. Marcus agreed immediately. Of course, whatever you need. I want to help find her. The apartment was exactly as you'd expect. Clean, organized, nothing suspicious. The kitchen showed evidence of recent cooking. Wine glasses in the drying rack. Everything normal. Everything innocent. Chen's instincts were screaming, but there was nothing. No evidence. No probable cause. Just a gut feeling that something about this too-perfect man wasn't right. They took his contact information. Told him they'd be in touch. Asked him to call if he thought of anything else or if Jessica contacted him. As they were leaving, Chen turned back. The breakup you mentioned. Your engagement that ended. What was her name? Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. Just for a second. Then it was gone, replaced by that same vulnerable sadness. Emily Bradshaw. But I don't see how that's relevant to Jessica. Probably not, Chen said. Just being thorough. In the car, her partner said what they were both thinking. He seems legit. Cooperative. Concerned. If he did something to her, he's the best actor I've ever seen. Yeah, Chen said, staring back at Marcus's apartment building. That's what worries me. They searched for Jessica Morrison for 3 months. Checked her credit cards, her phone records, her social media. Nothing. She had simply vanished into thin air after leaving Marcus Dalton's apartment. Without a body, without evidence, without witnesses, there was nothing to charge him with. The case went cold. Got filed away with the thousands of other missing persons cases that haunt every police department. Detective Sarah Chen couldn't let it go. She ran background checks on Marcus Dalton. Everything came back clean. No criminal record. Not even a parking ticket. She looked into Emily Bradshaw, the ex-fiancée. Found that she'd moved to Vancouver, Canada 2 years earlier. Chen made a note to follow up, but with no active case, she couldn't justify the expense of international travel. 6 months passed. Jessica Morrison's parents held a memorial service. Her friends started the painful process of moving on. Detective Chen worked other cases, but Jessica's face was pinned to her cubicle wall. A reminder of the one that got away. And Marcus Dalton? He grieved appropriately. Posted a heartfelt tribute to Jessica on social media. Attended her memorial service, crying quietly in the back row. Then, after what seemed like a respectful mourning period, he quietly reactivated his dating profile. By October of 2019, Marcus had matched with someone new. Before we continue with what happened next, I need you to do something. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button right now. This story is just getting started, and trust me, you're going to want to see where this goes. We cover cases like this every week, stories that news outlets won't tell you, details that get left out of official reports. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens when Detective Chen finally figures out who Marcus Dalton really is. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever ignored a red flag in a relationship? That little voice in your head saying something wasn't right, but the person seems so perfect that you convinced yourself you were just being paranoid? Drop a comment and let me know. Because what happens next in this story shows exactly why we should always trust our instincts. Her name was Rachel Kim, and she was everything Marcus Dalton was looking for. 31 years old, a marketing executive at a pharmaceutical company, Rachel was smart, ambitious, and according to everyone who knew her, extremely cautious. She'd been through a bad relationship in her 20s, the kind that teaches you to watch for warning signs. She'd done the therapy, read the books, built strong boundaries. Her friends joked that Rachel had a checklist for potential partners that was basically impossible to meet. And then she met Marcus. Their first date was at a wine bar in the Alberta Arts District. Rachel had told her sister beforehand that she wasn't expecting much. These dating apps were exhausting. Guys either came on too strong or barely tried. But Marcus was different from the first moment. He stood up when she approached the table, pulled out her chair, asked about her drive over, if she'd had trouble finding parking. Small courtesies that seemed increasingly rare. The conversation flowed easily. Marcus asked about her work, and actually understood the complexities of pharmaceutical marketing when she explained them. He talked about his own job without making it boring, found ways to make software engineering sound interesting. They discovered they'd both read the same obscure book about Arctic exploration. Both loved Thai food but hated coconut. Both had complicated relationships with social media. The coincidences piled up in a way that felt like fate. Rachel texted her sister from the bathroom. "Okay, I might have been wrong about dating apps. This guy is actually normal. And hot. And interesting. What's the catch?" Her sister wrote back, "There's always a catch. Be careful." But Rachel wasn't careful. Not really. Because Marcus continued to be perfect. Their second date was dinner at a Vietnamese restaurant, where he impressed her by speaking a bit of Vietnamese with the waiter, explaining he taught himself using apps during the pandemic. Their third date was a hike up to Pittock Mansion, where they watched the sunset over Portland while Marcus told her about his volunteer work at the animal shelter. By the fourth date, Rachel was already imagining introducing him to her parents. Her sister, Emily, was the only one who seemed skeptical. "He sounds great," she said over coffee one Saturday. "But doesn't he sound a little too great? Like, what are his flaws?" Rachel laughed. "You're so cynical. Why can't I just have met a good guy?" "You can," Emily said carefully. "I just want you to be smart about this. You barely know him." But Rachel felt like she did know him. They texted constantly. Long, thoughtful messages that felt like real conversations. He never played games, never waited some arbitrary number of hours to respond. He was consistent, reliable, present. After so many disappointing dates, so many guys who couldn't communicate or commit, Marcus felt like a miracle. On November 12, 2019, Rachel sent her sister a text at 6:30 p.m. "Going to Marcus's place tonight. We're going to have the talk about being exclusive. Wish me luck." Then with 3 laugh-crying emojis, "He's perfect. Almost too perfect. LOL." Emily sent back a string of supportive emojis and a reminder to text when she got home. Rachel promised she would. That was the last text Emily ever received from her sister. When Rachel didn't show up for their standing Sunday brunch, Emily knew immediately that something was catastrophically wrong. Rachel was never late, never forgot plans, never went radio silent. Emily called her cell phone 17 times. Nothing. She called Rachel's workplace. They hadn't heard from her either. She was supposed to be at an important presentation Monday morning. By Sunday afternoon, Emily was at the police station filing a missing persons report. And by Sunday evening, that report had landed on Detective Sarah Chen's desk. Chen saw the name Marcus Galton in the report and her blood went cold. She grabbed her coat and was out the door in 30 seconds. Her partner had to jog to keep up. "What's going on?" "Lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place," Chen said, her jaw tight. "Unless it's not lightning." They arrived at Marcus's apartment at 9 p.m. He answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, a book in his hand. When he saw Chen, recognition dawned on his face. Then concern. "Detective Chen? What's wrong? When was the last time you saw Rachel Kim?" Something crossed Marcus's face. Genuine confusion or a brilliant performance. "Rachel? Last night. She came over for dinner." "What? Is she okay?" "She's missing," Chen said, watching his reaction carefully. "Her sister filed a report this afternoon." Marcus's face went pale. The book dropped from his hand. "Missing? No, that can't be right. She was fine when she left. We had a great night. She seemed happy." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture that seemed authentically distressed. "Oh God, not again. This can't be happening again." "Not again?" Chen's partner said. "Jessica," Marcus said quietly. "The woman from last year. The one who disappeared after seeing me. You must think." He looked up at Chen and there were actual tears in his eyes. "You must think I had something to do with this. With both of them. But I swear to you, I don't know what's happening. I don't understand why this keeps happening to me." Detective Chen applied for a search warrant that night. By Monday morning she had it approved. At 6 a.m. she was back at Marcus Dalton's apartment with a full forensic team, cadaver dogs, and the growing certainty that she was finally going to find the evidence she needed. The apartment had been cleaned. Not just tidied up but professionally cleaned. Marcus explained that he'd had a cleaning service come Sunday morning. It was scheduled weeks ago, he insisted. Just a coincidence. The timing looked terrible, he understood that, but it was just a coincidence. The forensic team went over every inch of the apartment anyway. They found nothing. No blood. No signs of struggle. No evidence that anything violent had ever happened there. Marcus's story matched what he'd told them. Rachel had come over Saturday night around 7. They'd had dinner, he'd made his famous pasta. They'd talked about making their relationship official. She'd been happy, excited about their future. She left around midnight. He kissed her goodbye at the door, watched her walk to her car. That was the last he saw of her. But the cadaver dogs hit on something in the basement. They alerted near a drain in the corner, their behavior indicating they detected the scent of human decomposition. The forensic team tore apart that basement, examined the drain with luminol, took samples of everything. Nothing. Not a single trace of blood or biological material. Whatever the dogs had smelled, if they'd smelled anything at all, had been cleaned so thoroughly that modern forensics couldn't find it. Marcus's lawyer arrived by noon. An expensive attorney who immediately invoked Marcus's right to remain silent. No more questions without legal counsel present. Marcus was cooperative but clearly frightened, his lawyer insisted. He wanted to help find Rachel. But he also had rights, and given that he'd already been questioned in another missing woman's case, they needed to protect those rights. By Tuesday, the forensic reports came back. Nothing conclusive. Nothing they could use. The district attorney looked at what they had and shook his head. No body. No evidence. No witnesses. No probable cause for an arrest. A man having a woman over for dinner and that woman subsequently disappearing wasn't a crime without proof of foul play. Detective Sarah Chin sat in her car outside Marcus Dalton's apartment building Tuesday night, watching his window. The lights were on. She could see his silhouette moving around inside, probably making dinner, probably living his normal life while two women who trusted him were God knows where. Her partner found her there at midnight. "Chin, you need to go home. Get some sleep." "He did something to them," she said. "I know he did. Both of them. Maybe more we don't even know about." "Probably," her partner agreed. "But knowing and proving are different things. And right now we've got nothing. So we just let him get away with it? Let him match with someone else in a few months?" Her partner sighed. "We keep investigating. We build a case. But we do it by the book or it all falls apart in court anyway." Chin knew he was right. But she also knew that the law had limitations, and some people were smart enough to exploit them. Marcus Dalton was one of those people. She could feel it. What Detective Sarah Chin didn't know yet was that Marcus Dalton was far smarter, far more careful, and far more monstrous than she could possibly imagine. And by the time she finally figured out the full truth, another woman would already be zip-tied to a table in a remote cabin, watching Marcus Dalton sharpen his knives while explaining in chilling detail exactly which parts of her he planned to keep forever. Detective Sarah Chen couldn't sleep. For 3 months after Rachel Kim disappeared, she'd lie awake replaying every interaction with Marcus Dalton, searching for the crack in his perfect facade. 2 women. 2 missing persons cases. Same man. No evidence. No bodies. No justice. It was eating her alive. She started doing what cops aren't supposed to do. She became obsessed. She pulled Marcus's file every morning before her shift officially started. Ran searches that weren't part of any active investigation. Drove past his apartment on her way home, watching for anything unusual. Her captain told her to let it go. Her partner said she was heading for burnout. Her wife said she was bringing darkness home that their family couldn't handle. But Chin couldn't stop. Because she knew. The way you know when you touch a hot stove. Instant. Undeniable. Marcus Dalton was guilty. And if she didn't stop him, he'd do it again. That's when she remembered Emily Bradshaw, the ex-fiancée. The woman Marcus mentioned during that first interview about Jessica Morrison. The difficult breakup he never wanted to talk about. Chin had made a note to follow up back then, but the case had gone cold and Emily lived in another country. Now, with Rachel Kim also missing, Emily Bradshaw wasn't just a footnote. She might be the only person who truly understood who Marcus Dalton was before he perfected his mask. Chin spent 2 weeks trying to reach Emily through conventional channels. Phone calls that went to voicemail. Emails that bounced back. Messages sent through social media that were read but never answered. Finally, Chin did something that could get her reprimanded. She used vacation days she'd been saving for her anniversary and bought a plane ticket to Vancouver. She found Emily Bradshaw working at a bookstore in Kitsilano, a neighborhood near the waterfront. Chin watched her through the window for 20 minutes before going inside. Emily was 32 now, pretty in an understated way with long dark hair and cautious eyes. She was shelving books in the poetry section when Chin approached, showed her badge, and said the name Emily had clearly spent 2 years trying to forget. Marcus Galton. Emily's hands froze. A book of Pablo Neruda poems slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. She didn't pick it up. "No," she whispered. "No, I can't. I don't talk about him. Ever." "Two women are missing," Chin said quietly. "Both disappeared after dating him. I think there might be more. I think he's been doing this for a long time. And I think you're the only person who got away." Emily's face drained of color. She steadied herself against the bookshelf. "Missing? You mean dead? If Marcus took them, they're dead. Or they wish they were. They went to a coffee shop 3 blocks away." Emily called in sick to work. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold her cup. And then, for the first time in 2 years, she told someone the truth about Marcus Dalton. "Everyone thought we were perfect together," Emily began. "My friends were jealous. My parents loved him. He was everything you're supposed to want. Successful, thoughtful, romantic. For the first 6 months, it was like a fairy tale." "What changed?" Chin asked. "Nothing changed," Emily said. "That's what was so terrifying. I started realizing it had always been there. I just hadn't seen it. Or I'd seen it and told myself I was being paranoid." The controlling behavior started small. Marcus had opinions about what Emily wore. Not angry demands, just gentle suggestions. "That dress is beautiful, but the blue one makes your eyes stand out more." He'd buy her clothes as gifts. Expensive, tasteful things. Then he'd seem hurt if she didn't wear them. He wanted to know where she was, not in a jealous way but because he worried about her. He'd text throughout the day. Sweet messages that required responses. If she took too long to reply, he'd call, concerned something had happened. "I told myself he just cared about me," Emily said. "That after so many guys who didn't give a damn, here was someone who actually paid attention. I didn't see it as control. Not at first. But then came the strange request. Marcus wanted to paint her toenails. It seemed sweet, romantic even. He made it into this whole ritual. He'd have her soak her feet in warm water with essential oils. He'd massage them first. Then he'd paint each toenail with such careful precision, his face intensely focused. He looked like a jeweler examining diamonds," Emily said. "That's the only way I can describe it. Like my toes were precious objects, not parts of a person." He became obsessed with her nails. Both fingers and toes. He insisted on trimming them himself. Bought professional manicure tools. Spent an hour on her hands, carefully shaping each nail to identical length. "He'd hold my hand up to the light," Emily said, her voice barely audible, "examining his work. And he had this expression that made my skin crawl. Like he was proud but also hungry. I don't know how else to describe it." Detective Chin leaned forward. "Did he ever hurt you? Physically?" "No," Emily said. "Never. That's what made it so hard to explain to people later. He never hit me. Never threatened me. But he had this way of looking at me sometimes, especially when he was focused on my hands or feet, where I felt like I wasn't a person to him. I was a collection of parts. Beautiful parts he was studying. Like I was a doll in his collection, not his fiancée." The breaking point came one night when Emily woke up at 3 in the morning. Marcus wasn't in bed. She found him in the living room, sitting in the dark. He had a photo album open on his lap, but when she got closer, she saw it wasn't photos. It was pictures of her hands and feet. Dozens of them. Taken from different angles in different lighting. Close-ups of her fingers, her toes, her nails. He'd been photographing her for months without her really noticing. "What are you doing?" she'd asked. Marcus looked up, and in the darkness, his smile was wrong. "Appreciating you," he said. "All of you. Especially the parts that are most beautiful." Emily packed a bag that night while Marcus was at work. She didn't leave a note. Didn't try to explain. She just ran. Drove to Seattle, stayed with a cousin for a week, then moved to Vancouver where she knew Marcus couldn't easily follow. She filed a restraining order from Canada, citing emotional abuse and erratic behavior. It was granted but expired after 2 years. "I thought I was crazy," Emily said, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I was overreacting. He never hit me. Never screamed at me. My friends thought I was throwing away a perfect relationship. But I knew if I stayed, something terrible would happen. I could feel it." "Emily," Detective Chin said carefully, "did Marcus ever talk about wanting to keep parts of you? Ever say anything about preserving what he loved?" Emily's face went white. "How did you know?" She was silent for a long moment. "The last time I saw him, I went back to get some things I'd left behind. He didn't know I was coming. I used my key. I found him in his office talking to himself. He didn't hear me at first. He was saying things about keeping love forever. About how nothing beautiful lasts, but maybe parts of it could. He said. She stopped, struggling to continue. He said he wished he could preserve the parts of me that he loved most. My hands that had touched him. My feet that had danced with him. He wanted to keep them forever. What did you do? I ran. Again. And I never went back. I left everything behind. My furniture, my pictures, my books. I didn't care. I just knew I had to get away from him. Emily looked directly at Chin. He's doing it, isn't he? What he wanted to do to me. He's actually doing it to other women. Detective Chin didn't answer directly. She couldn't share details of an active investigation, but her silence was answer enough. There's something else you need to know, Emily said. Marcus told me once about his mother. He was drunk, which was rare for him. He said she left when he was 7 years old. Just walked out one day. But before she left, she told him something. He remembered it word for word even though he was so young. She said, "You're not worth staying for. Not worth loving. Not even your tiny fingers and toes are enough to make me stay." Emily wiped her eyes. I think that broke something in him. Something that never healed. By February of 2020, Detective Sarah Chen had compiled an extensive file on Marcus Dalton. She had Emily's testimony, which was compelling but not evidence of murder. She had 2 missing women, which was suspicious but not proof of a crime. She had her instincts, which had never been wrong, but which didn't hold up in court. The district attorney was clear. Without a body, without physical evidence, without a witness to an actual crime, there was nothing to charge Marcus Dalton with. Marcus knew he was being watched. He was too smart not to know. For 3 months after Rachel Kim's disappearance, he kept a low profile. No dating apps. No social media presence. He went to work, came home, volunteered at the animal shelter. He was the model citizen. Patient. Careful. Waiting for the scrutiny to fade. Chin had a patrol car drive past his apartment twice a night. She flagged his name in every database she could access. She was doing everything legally possible to monitor him. But she couldn't watch him forever. Budget constraints. Other cases. A captain who told her she was wasting resources on a man who had never been charged with anything. By late February, the surveillance stopped. And Marcus Dalton reactivated his dating profile. Her name was Amanda Torres, and she was 29 years old when she matched with Marcus. An elementary school teacher at a school in southeast Portland, Amanda was beloved by her students and their parents. She was the kind of teacher who stayed late to help struggling kids, who paid for school supplies out of her own pocket, who believed every child deserved someone who believed in them. Amanda had her own history with bad relationships. An abusive ex-boyfriend 3 years earlier had left her with trust issues and a restraining order. She'd done therapy, built herself back up, learned to recognize red flags. Her friends thought she was maybe too cautious now, turning down decent guys because of minor imperfections. But when Marcus Dalton messaged her, something felt different. His profile was reassuring. Stable job. Community involvement. That face that seemed kind. And when they started talking, he did something that made Amanda's guard come down. He told her the truth. Or at least, his version of it. "I need to be honest with you," he wrote after a few days of chatting. "I've been through something really difficult. 2 women I dated disappeared. The police investigated me. I had nothing to do with it and I was never charged with anything, but I know my name has been in the news. If you want to stop talking to me, I understand. I just thought you deserved to know." It was brilliant, really. By bringing it up himself, by seeming vulnerable and honest about it, he flipped the narrative. He wasn't a suspect hiding his past. He was a victim of circumstance being transparent about false accusations. Amanda appreciated the honesty. She looked into it, found that he'd never been charged, that the police had no evidence. She saw a man who'd been wrongly accused, who deserved a second chance. Their first date was coffee. Public. Safe. Amanda told her best friend Keisha exactly where she'd be and when. But Marcus was exactly as advertised. Gentle. Thoughtful. He asked about her work, seemed genuinely interested in her passion for teaching. He told her about his job without making it boring. He made her laugh. Made her feel seen. The second date was dinner. The third was a museum. By the 4th date, Amanda was thinking this might actually be something real. Marcus was attentive in ways her ex had never been. He texted good morning and good night. Remembered details from previous conversations. Made plans in advance. Talked about the future in a way that included her. Keisha was worried. She'd done her own research on Marcus Dalton, found more details about the missing women. "Amanda, I know he seems great, but 2 women disappeared after dating him. Doesn't that bother you?" The police cleared him, Amanda said. He was investigated and they found nothing. People deserve second chances, Keisha. If we punish people for things they didn't do, what kind of society are we? But what if he did do it? What if he's just really good at hiding it? Then I'm a better judge of character than you're giving me credit for, Amanda said, frustrated. I've been through abuse. I know what manipulation looks like. Marcus isn't that. He's just a guy who got caught up in something tragic and now everyone assumes the worst about him. By date 5, Marcus felt comfortable enough to suggest something different. I have a family cabin up in the Cascade Mountains, he said. It's beautiful this time of year. Peaceful. I was thinking maybe we could go for the weekend. Get away from the city, from the stress. Just us in the mountains. Amanda hesitated. A cabin in the woods. Remote. Alone with someone she'd known less than a month. Every self-defense class she'd ever taken was screaming warnings in her head. But Marcus seemed to sense her hesitation. I know it's a big ask, he said. And I completely understand if you're not comfortable. We can just do dinner again. No pressure. He smiled that warm smile. I just really enjoy spending time with you, Amanda. But at your pace. Always at your pace. The lack of pressure somehow made Amanda feel safe. He wasn't pushing. He was offering. And she'd been so careful for so long. Maybe it was time to trust someone again. She told Keisha she was going. Keisha tried one more time to talk her out of it. When that didn't work, she did something Amanda would later credit with saving her life. Keisha secretly installed a tracking app on Amanda's phone. She told herself she was being paranoid, but she activated it anyway. Text me when you get there, Keisha said, hugging Amanda goodbye. And check in every few hours. Please. I will, Amanda promised. Stop worrying. Everything's going to be fine. The cabin was exactly as Marcus described it. Tucked into the forest about 2 hours outside Portland, accessible by a winding private road, it was the kind of place people dream about for romantic getaways. Wood-burning fireplace. Huge windows overlooking pine trees. A kitchen that was rustic but well-equipped. It was beautiful. Isolated. Perfect. The first few hours were idyllic. Marcus built a fire while Amanda explored the cabin. They opened a bottle of wine and sat on the couch talking about everything and nothing. Music and travel and childhood memories. Marcus was a perfect host. Attentive but not overbearing. He made her feel comfortable, special, safe. As evening came, Marcus started cooking dinner. Something elaborate that required multiple courses and careful preparation. He kept refilling Amanda's wine glass. She didn't notice at first that she was drinking much more than him. That her glass was always full while his barely seemed to go down. The food was delicious. Marcus had made some kind of pasta from scratch, a salad with dressing he'd prepared himself, bread he'd baked that morning before they left. Everything tasted incredible. Amanda felt warm and happy and maybe a little drowsy. The wine probably. The long drive. The warmth of the fire. You seem tired, Marcus said, watching her. Should we head to bed? Something about the way he said it made Amanda's instincts flare. She couldn't explain why. His tone was caring, concerned even. But something in his eyes had changed. Or maybe it hadn't changed. Maybe she was finally seeing what had always been there. I just need to use the bathroom, she said, standing up. The room tilted slightly. She was drunker than she thought. How much had she had? 2 glasses? 3? She couldn't remember. In the bathroom, Amanda splashed cold water on her face. Looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes looked unfocused. Her movements felt sluggish. She pulled out her phone to text Keisha. Something's off. Coming home early. The message showed as sent, but Amanda didn't know if it would go through. The signal up here was spotty. She tried to clear her head to think. She was being paranoid, probably. Marcus had been nothing but perfect. But that voice in her head, the one that had learned the hard way to recognize danger, was screaming now. When she came back to the living room, Marcus was standing by the fire. His posture was different. Stiffer. More rigid. And when he turned to look at her, his smile had changed. It was still a smile technically, but it was mechanical now. Calculated. Like he'd been wearing a mask all evening and had just decided he didn't need it anymore. You're not leaving, Amanda, he said quietly. His voice was calm. Too calm. Not tonight. Not ever. Amanda felt ice flood her veins. What? I said you're not leaving. He took a step toward her. I've been so careful with you. So patient. Building trust, taking my time. And you trusted me, didn't you? You came all the way up here to my cabin in the middle of nowhere because you believed I was safe. Amanda's hand moved to her phone in her pocket. Marcus saw the movement and laughed. The signal's been jammed since we got here. Technology is wonderful, isn't it? Your friend can't track you. Your messages aren't going through. You're completely cut off. He took another step closer. And that wine you've been drinking? I added something special. You're feeling it now, aren't you? The drowsiness. The way your limbs feel heavy. Amanda tried to run. She made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. The drugs had been working through her system for over an hour. Marcus caught her easily as she fell, his grip strong but almost gentle. Don't fight it, he said, and now his voice was tender, almost loving. This is how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be together. All of you with all of me. Forever. Amanda tried to scream, but Marcus clamped a hand over her mouth. She felt him zip-tie her wrists behind her back. The plastic bit into her skin. She tried to kick, to struggle, but her body wouldn't respond the way she needed it to. The drugs had stolen her strength, her coordination, everything she needed to fight. Marcus lifted her effortlessly, carrying her through the cabin like a bride over a threshold. But he wasn't taking her to the bedroom. He was heading toward a door she hadn't noticed before. A door that led down. Subscribe and watch out for part 2.